Hello, everybody. Welcome to Button Mash, BSU's premier and only video game show. I'm
The
your
classiest, the sexiest.
host. As I was saying, I'm your host, Lucas Schmidt. Co-host, as always, Joseph Noop.
Woo!
Yep, whoop whoop from Noop. All right.
It's going to be a great show today, isn't it?
It's always going to be a
Even
great
at the
show.
crack of dawn, we have so much great news to bring you guys.
So much crack of dawn that we record.
How do you like that theme song, everyone? That's, Cold War Kids?
That is Foster the People.
Oh, what, Foster. All right, there we go.
Completely
I've
off, but
demonstrated
that's
my
okay.
musical knowledge. All right. First story off today, I guess. We
Half-Life.
have
We have to.
Half-Life 3.
Yeah, right. Well, not confirm, but I mean, kind of, sort of confirm. Good enough for the internet.
They have filed the trademark in Europe, in the EU. NeoGAF reported originally, Valve has filed a trademark for Half-Life 3, quotation marks, Half-Life 3, with the Trademarks and Designs Registration Office at the European Union. The filing was made on September 29th and covers, quote, computer game software, electronic game software, downloadable computer game software via a global computer network, and wireless devices. Semicolon video game software, if you didn't hear that word often enough.
Yeah.
So it's not an official announcement, but it's kind of sneaky and suspicious with the fact that, oh, hey, we just announced a console.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
what would be the
companies-
best thing?
Companies always do this with their trademarks. I mean, I remember a couple years back, Call of Duty, they registered, Activision registered like a dozen different names for potential Call of Duty future titles, like Call of Duty Space, Call of Duty something, Call of Duty whatnot. But what I speculate and what I feel a lot of people speculate is that the best time to launch Half-Life 3 would be as an exclusive launch title with their new Steam machines.
It would just drive such a hammer into the fact that, like, this console has a chance. Not just for the merits of its hardware and software capabilities, but we have waited for Half-Life 3 since, what, 2004?
2004, I believe, was when
Four.
Half-Life 2 came out, and then the
Episode
episodes...
2 came out like 2006 at
Was
the
it?
latest, I
Okay.
think. Yeah, so we've been clamoring, and obviously there's been so many conspiracies and teases. Valve has nothing to lose with teasing Half-Life 3. That they can only go upwards in terms of, do we want to promote this game and just get people crazed?
Yeah, just keep the anticipation wheel turning. Yeah, but I mean, as we all know, Valve is notorious for being unable to count to 3. I don't know, and nobody knows quite why, but it just seems like they can't do it. But
All
who
right.
knows? Maybe they'll break the chain.
Next news story, I guess.
You pick one.
All right, I've got a bit of an update on. You might remember from the first couple of episodes, I updated you all on the Mighty Number 9 Kickstarter. What that essentially was the creator of Mega Man was sort of distancing himself from Capcom, who wanted to own the rights to Kaiji Inafune. Yeah, finally remembered his name. Was distancing himself from Capcom because they wanted to continue owning the rights to Mega Man, and he wanted to sort of move in a different direction and create another game. They wouldn't let him, and he proposed this Kickstarter for Mighty Number 9, which is essentially Mega Man in everything but name, including art style, gameplay style. You may remember from our updates that it hit, I believe, like an 800 grand plus, or no. Let's see, 3.8 million, 4 million. Yep, 4 million and plus for the final tier of that Kickstarter, which basically guarantees us a retro chiptune style soundtrack, an online battle race mode, and it's coming to the PS4 and Xbox One. Woo! So if you're a Mega Man fan, that is huge news. And 3DS plus Vita versions. Coming to every next-gen console and handheld with the exception of the Wii U.
Nobody likes the Wii U.
Nobody likes the Wii U.
Wii U. Yeah.
So
but do you want to just talk a second to talk about Kickstarters and Kickstarter and how awesome crowdfunding is? It's really
When
been
put in the
this
right
huge
hands,
trend
yeah.
that we've seen in the last 2 years or so. I'd say is when it's really taken off. I love it.
When put in the right hands, it is an excellent tool for fostering the creativity that people who aren't as advantaged as giant game corporations are. The only problem we have to worry about with Kickstarter, obviously, is people abusing the system. Someone going on Kickstarter and saying like, "Hey guys, can I get $400 for a new laptop?" and being like, "No." Like,
see that's
how does it
thing,
help
though, is
anyone?
that I don't see that.
I
being
see
abused
that.
because if people could lie, I guess, on Kickstarter and then get their money that way, but
Not to say that like many of them, if any of them, get actually funded. It's just people clogging the system and abusing the goodwill of that sort of corporation slash organization meant to allow people to vote with their dollar, which is what people did with Mighty Number 9. They wanted Kaiji Inafune to come back and create that.
Yeah. It's really cool. I've only contributed to one so far. It's
What was that?
It's GTFO. It's a film coming out. I believe it's going to come out early next year. I believe possibly later this year. Can't quite remember. But it's a film about women in the video game industry and
Excellent.
just kind of the struggles they have, I guess, or like the inequality.
Yeah, I would be
towards
really
women and
interested to see that.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that was
it's
coming
awesome
out.
because one awesome thing with Kickstarter is I love how they have like the tiers of the benefits and how much you contribute. So there will be like, if you put in $10, you get this. If you put in $20, you get this. Because you pledge it, you don't actually give it to them. So if the goal isn't met, you never actually pay anything.
Yeah,
So
which is one of the more benevolent features of that website is no one can just run off with the money,
exactly,
and not be able to make anything.
Yeah, because I think I put in 10, maybe $20 towards the film, and I'll be getting a digital copy of it when it comes out.
Is it still running, the Kickstarter for that?
No, it met its goal.
Oh, good.
Months, like back in May, I think, maybe even April. It met its goal. It's beginning going. It
Maybe
went for a while.
Maybe we should do a Kickstarter, Lucas. Help these poor orphan boys.
I'm not an orphan.
Get
Are you an orphan?
quiet.
That's something we shouldn't discuss on the radio. We'll discuss that later.
All right. Next news story.
All right. So
Hold on. Sorry. Let me interrupt you for just 1 second. I forgot to put this
I
in
just got started.
the Mighty Number 9
getting to some
story.
good stuff.
They will be using the Unreal Engine 3 for the game.
Really?
Yeah, which is very interesting considering Unreal Engine 3 is associated with stuff like Gears of War.
Well, Unreal Engine is related to like everything. I mean, that engine is used.
Not everything, but a
it,
significant number of like graphics-heavy games. Heck yeah.
Yeah, like the Unreal Engine is to engines for games as EA is to publishing games. Like literally, you look at your stack of games. There's a good chance about half of them are probably going to be EA games, and just like when you look at your games, good chance half of them are probably going to run on Unreal Engine.
More or less.
Yeah.
All right, you were saying?
My story. All right. Okay, not my story. Our story. It's our radio show. But it's really interesting. The PS4, as you may or may not know, is going to have a 500 gigabyte hard drive, which is pretty big. However, there was an interview with a Sony rep from the UK, and he said he was talking about the play as you install or as you download feature.
Yeah.
That's in both systems where, you're only like 5-10% or something. I don't know the number exactly, but you're some percentage of the way through downloading, but you can go ahead and still start playing the game as it's downloading / installing.
Which may not sound like a lot, but considering I just waited like 4 hours for GTA 5 to download, that means something.
When you go to the midnight launch and you're just sitting on your couch, you have nothing to do but watch that bar fill up, it'll be a big deal for those people.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, the Sony rep, he said in an interview that Killzone Shadowfall, the Killzone launch title for PS4, is going to be nearly 50 gigabytes big, which for those of you who don't have a comparison to the standard size of games, that's enormous. The biggest PC games are 20 to 30. That's the very biggest.
GTA 5 on the PS3 was like 8 gigs.
Yeah,
and
8's pretty average.
We talked about this last night, but I mean, jeez.
Oh, that's insane.
That is what that's like an eighth of the console gone right there. I know, and I mean, we're going to talk about this later, actually, guys. We have a bit of a feature section today for what are the pros and cons of early adoption on new
about it now.
Let's finish up this news story and then we'll get to it. Yeah, but
so little time.
But yeah, that is crazy. I don't think that we can discuss that when we get to the pros and cons. But for as far as Killzone is concerned, do you think it's because like they're getting used to the console hardware, like how it was more difficult to produce gaming or produce games for the PS3 because of the cell processor versus the Xbox 360, which had an easier to build for one. Do you think that might be it, or do you think that's what we're going to see as a norm?
I would imagine that as time goes on, developers would become more familiar with the system and building games on it, and as a result, those files would get smaller. But can't say for certain because I'm not a developer.
All right.
All speculation.
Next story on the list. We have a 9-year-old Florida boy has been sentenced to home confinement after being caught with a handgun, a magazine with 6 rounds, a steak knife, and a small sledgehammer. School officials say they discovered the weapons after the boy showed them to 3 other students who immediately reported it. Good for those 3 students. At least we have some hope. And guess what? His father blamed Minecraft. Quote, the zombie slaying game Minecraft. So obviously someone hasn't played Minecraft if he calls it a zombie slaying game.
Guns at all in Minecraft? I played the beta a pretty good amount, but granted that was the beta. That was about 2 years ago now. I haven't played it since, but I've heard and seen nothing of guns.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen. There might be a mod obviously for it, but as far as the official license goes, I don't think Notch has put any sort of weapon other than pickaxe, axe, and maybe small handheld stuff like that. Very basic stuff. I mean, the game itself is incredibly basic, and to insinuate that a game where the primary focus is build something, to insinuate that your kid was influenced by the enemies in the game who just they explode if they get too close to you, or your house or whatever you build. That's a little asinine.
Just a little bit.
Speaking to WFTV News, the boy's father described him as good and caring child and pointed the finger of blame in the usual direction, but not the usual games, Minecraft, obviously. Good news for all involved is that even if the boy had wanted to go on a shooting spree, he couldn't have done so because his dad had taken out the firing pin. So that's that's the last thing that we need.
Yeah,
is
I
another
remember skimming that
shooting.
article. Did his dad let him take the gun to school, saying that it's okay because he took the firing pin out? Because that's what it kind of sounds like. He's like, don't worry, I took the pin out. It's like, well, dude, you still like.
The report isn't clear. So far, I believe that an investigation might be ongoing. Although it seems like from the facts that we have here, the most likely conclusion is he had it in an unsecured location that the boy easily enough knew about, which is the worst thing you can do with minor gun control. Not to preach politics or anything, because that's just not what we're going to do here. But basic safety common sense would be put it in a place where a child cannot access it, at least easily.
Yeah, and before you worry about what harmless games your kids are playing, maybe you should worry about where you keep your guns.
Yeah. All right, do you got anything else for us, Lucas?
World of Warcraft movie has a release date, even though they haven't launched any kind of a teaser for the film at all. Well, there was a teaser at Comic-Con, I believe it was, some sort of convention of sorts this summer, but it wasn't shown to the public. It was just shown to the people in the audience there. But it is sometime... Wait, hold on. December 18th, 2015.
December 18th, 2015.
So we still got 2 years. But filming is scheduled to start sometime in 2014.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Are we World of Warcraft or not Warcraft? Because we had reported previously on a Warcraft film, and I was like, well, I believe it's the same sort of universe as World of Warcraft, but it's a different sort of game style.
No, World of Warcraft.
All right, then. That's great. Okay, I hope that goes well. We'll take a break here. We're going to play some music for you, and we'll be right back with a bit of features talk and maybe a bit more of news. Check it out. Welcome back to Button Mash on WCRD 91.3 FM, the Pulse of Ball State. We've got two news stories left for you, and they're both about betas.
Betas, as some people like to pronounce. I had a friend who pronounced them betas. He had a problem pronouncing lots of words.
Is he still your friend?
No. Well, okay. I use the term friend loosely. He was a dude I met. He was like a friend of a friend, like online, like Call of Duty, like back when I was like 15 or something. I don't know. It was just funny. He couldn't say blueberry. He would say blubbery. Blubbery. We'd be like, hey, say blueberries, like blubbery. It was
I'm sure the world would be sadder for his loss. Let's go into the beta story.
Okay, so the much anticipated beta for Battlefield 4 is now up and running as of yesterday. Yep, went up yesterday. It's not open to everyone though. You have to have bought the Battlefield 4 Deluxe Edition.
It was closed when I checked it out, which means that, people jumped on that. I did, however, see one of my friends on Facebook commenting, and I believe his exact words were regarding the Battlefield 4 beta, the Battlefield I know and love is forever dead. And I was like, whoa, what?
Really? Doesn't look that drastic of a change.
No. So, I mean, but I trust this guy. Like, I know he's not just some overreacting tool who, if Call of Duty, drops a gun, you've ruined the entire game. Blah. But to hear those words out of him, like, really, I'm curious now, like, what are the differences between this, if they are so drastic as to elicit that reaction from him? Is it the gameplay style? Is it the matchmaking style? Is it the way that the game just rolls out?
Maybe it's that what's it called exactly? Like the commander feature or whatever, where the one person kind of has like an overhead view. They can use like their tablet or smartphone or whatever app they want. But maybe, who knows?
Well, all right.
But the beta will be coming out to everyone else. What's today? Wednesday? So Friday. It will be coming out on Friday, October 4th. It'll be open to everyone on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC.
Excellent. All right, and in other beta news, guess what, guys? Bungie and Activision have made the announcement of the forthcoming Destiny beta, and they debuted a new trailer with 4 of the new enemy races in the game. The public beta test will begin in, quote, a very non-specific early 2014. How you'll get into the beta, that's a process that follows tradition. Pre-order the game, basically, and access is yours. Making a mint. Yep. So I've been watching Destiny, because I'm really sort of excited for the game, even though I never really enjoyed Halo. The aesthetic of Destiny sort of appeals to me, and the always online or not always online sort of capabilities excite me. Seeing enemies and players zip around in the same battlefield and working towards their class strengths was sort of very appealing.
Yeah, the visuals in terms more of lighting and coloring are very Mass Effect-esque, to me at least. Did you see? There's one class too who has kind of I love the term they use. He has space magic. He has space magic powers, but they basically look like plasmids not plasmids. Plasmids is BioShock. I'm getting my games confused.
They look like what?
Biotic powers. That's
biotics.
Biotics from Mass Effect.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Just shoot a big old orb of purple mess at them, and it explodes, and then they explode, and then you win, and then you rank up, and rinse and repeat, and that's Destiny in a nutshell.
All right, so the Destiny beta test access will be offered, quote, while supplies last on all announced platforms. That includes PlayStation 3, 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. If you want more information, you can always hit up destinythegame.com. You want to move right into features, Lucas?
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Tonight on our features segment, we have we sort of tossed this idea around between the two of us last week. We are going to discuss the pros and cons of early adoption for consoles. What does that mean? For people who will camp out day one and get a game in its first initial weeks or month of being publicly available for purchase, what are the pros and cons of that versus waiting for the inevitable revisions that come with almost every console generation? We saw it with the PS3. We saw it with the Xbox 360.
That's just with hardware in general. they always just come out with more versions. I mean, what are we now on, the iPod 8th or like 8th generation?
iOS 7.
Yeah. It just keeps going.
PlayStation Thin. And yeah, I my first PlayStation 3, which was with the giant brick, kind of crapped out on me eventually. It got what was essentially the Red Ring of Death version for Sony. It was called like the Yellow Light of Death, and that was great because I had my copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 stuck in there and I could never get it out. It's still in there. So I think what are the problems that these consoles are going to run into in their first couple of months or weeks post launch? What do you think, Lucas?
As far as immediate, I can't think of anything. I mean, those are all kind of things that we'd have to just kind of randomly guess and speculate. But as far as further down the line, obviously I would imagine they would get smaller. I could imagine potentially maybe the Kinect sensor for the Xbox One. Later versions could, who knows, maybe it'll be like integrated into the console or something.
That, well, maybe not necessarily into the console itself, because there will always be the question of, where does your console sit? Does it sit underneath the box? And if technology improves to where the Kinect sensor can sort of overcome its issues that it's had for a good long while, we probably will see it coming back as a popular feature on offered on the Xbox One. For right now, I think that they dropped the Kinect like as a required part of the console.
Yeah,
so I'm sure that they'll come out with a SKU that doesn't have it, I'm sure, for a lower price maybe, and try to edge in on PlayStation 4's pricing dominance.
Right.
But that Kinect sensor needs to go as far as I'm concerned. What do you think about it for the PS4? Anything?
Well, one thing definitely thinking of with the Killzone that we were talking about earlier, hard drive size is definitely going to be a big one. 500 gigabytes, that's a lot, but that's a lot in 2013. Now, if games continue to be 50 gigs big, then that 500 is going to go pretty quickly once you start adding some games to your library. So I could easily see them moving on into the terabytes 1, 2, or 3 within the next 5 years or so. Definitely breaking that terabyte line.
I remember when I first got my PlayStation 3, which I got it for Christmas, I believe, of 2006 when it came out. I only managed to get like the cheapest version, which was 20 gigs, I think. 20 gigs. Let that sink in. Killzone Shadowfall is 50 gigs install, plus or minus whatever the game itself, is running on the disc. And I remember, going back and forth between all my save files when a new game came out. Well, what am I not playing anymore? What am I never going to play anymore? Can I make space with this? Can I delete all of these? Is there any way I can finagle my way around this 8 gig install for some huge game or for a demo? Every time I downloaded a demo on the PlayStation Store, it was a nightmare because, those things are 1-2 more gigs, and it takes up so much space.
Yeah, they really do.
I think the biggest problem with that, though, will be developers learning how to work with the console hardware. We saw it with the PS3. The cell processor was such a pain to create anything for, which is why for a couple years at least, everything that was on both the PS3 and the Xbox 360 looked better or performed better on the Xbox 360 because the cell processor was just such a nightmare.
Yeah, I just remember developers have pretty much, not unanimously, but for the most part, always swing towards the 360 as terms of development. There's always Gabe Newell's infamous hatred of the PS3, saying he will never develop for it again. Ended up breaking that rule and making Portal 2 for it. But other than that, for the most part, they do tend to swing towards the Xbox. The PS3, it's just, I don't know. You think? I mean, definitely the Blu-ray drive is nice.
Yeah, it's gotten better in recent years with people, again, learning eventually how to create for it. And the Blu-ray, thank God, was what helped Sony come out on top when it was Blu-ray versus HD DVD. Yeah. I still remember the articles, touting the specs of both, and it was a war. you would go to Target and they would have the red aisle and the blue aisle. It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I think as far as the PlayStation 4, learning how to build for it, and really I think it might be a problem for every next gen console, or maybe not, because everything's becoming a PC build sort of now, everything is.
It's just inevitable that they're going to gradually move closer towards it.
And with the advent of online updates and firmware updates, we might be seeing less and less of those issues and less of those revisions that come to consoles. When do you think the first price drop will come for either console?
3 years, guessing. I mean, how long did it take for these consoles to drop?
Well, the Wii U was already struggling, and it dropped like $100.
The Wii U didn't sell at all. It sold like in the tens of thousands of units.
Do you think the Xbox One will sell well enough to at least recoup all the losses it will make?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, consoles are always sold at a loss. That's just a given. They have to. Otherwise, these things would just be way too overpriced and nobody would buy them. And if nobody buys a console, then they're sure as heck aren't going to buy anything else that comes. They're not going to buy the games. They're not going to buy the accessories, which they just love to sell their accessories. God, they make so much over those overpriced $50 controllers. That's one thing I'm really hoping these new consoles will strive to do well. No, it's just the controllers is designing them well, because the PlayStation controller, they didn't really change at all, and there's plenty of adjustments.
Tiny things,
seen. Yeah, just tiny things though. And then the Xbox 360 is notoriously horrible durability. The analog sticks, it's a common problem. I'm sure many of you have had it, where your stick just like gets stuck to one side or whatever. So if you're playing a game and you set your controller down, your character's view, the camera will just continue to pan to the left or up or right or whatever, or like the left analog stick will get stuck and your character will just slowly walk towards the left.
That happened on my PlayStation 3. My right control stick got stuck to one side, not like all the way, but like just enough that if I walked forward, the game would think like, oh, he wants to walk forward and pivot right a bit, just enough to like where aiming or anything was a nightmare. And poor child me couldn't afford another $50-$60 for a controller. So hopefully the durability on these things are better.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as far as controllers go, I am absolutely pumped for the Steam controller. Have you looked at it and everything about it?
Yeah, I've heard accounts of the touch sensors on where your thumbs will go, being surprisingly receptive, being surprisingly accurate to whatever the developer of the game will want to implement there. And remember though, the Steam machine and the Steam controller aren't the only. The Steam controller isn't the only controller you can use on that Steam box. You can put in the Xbox 360 or PS3, or I would assume PS4 and Xbox One controller as well, because it's an open system. So worst case scenario, if one doesn't work out for you, grab your other one from the living room or wherever you keep it and try that out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I think that's enough for pros and cons, unless you've got anything else to say.
Nope.
We'll take a real quick break and we'll be back to say goodbye. All right, check it. Welcome back to Button Mash on WCRD 91.3 FM, the pulse of Ball State. All right, thanks guys for joining us today. It's been a great show. We talked about lots of fun news and a bit of a cool feature. I liked talking about pros and cons of early adoption because it makes me feel better about possibly not being able to afford it on day one.
I like talking too. Yay, talking about video games.
Man, that Killzone Shadowfall story makes me depressed because I actually wanted to rent that game and play. I love Killzone as a concept, just the Helghan and everything.
You'll get a 4-day rental. You'll spend that first day just installing it. It's ridiculous.
All right, guys. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. And announcement, a big announcement, Lucas. We are moving to Fridays at 8 p.m. on WCRD still, but we are moving to Fridays at 8. This show will be airing, obviously, if you're listening, it's airing at 3 p.m. on Thursday. Starting next week, we will be airing our show Fridays at 8 p.m.
Hopefully
Don't worry.
It's a little bit more convenient for everyone.
Yeah, with being in classes or being busy, just like we are. Fridays, there might be a bit of party time going on, but
maybe a little bit.
But I think our fan base knows its priorities right here in the heart where we are, your Button Mash heart.
Yeah, listening to Button Mash is their priority in life, I'm sure.
All right, so yeah, that's Fridays at 8 p.m. starting now, and we'll continue posting everything on YouTube almost immediately after. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. That is Button Mash BSU for both of those.
The easiest way to keep in touch with us. Ask us any questions you ever have. We'll feel free to talk about them on the show.
We will answer them.
Oh, yeah.
As long as it's FCC friendly, we probably will answer them.
It means no bad words, no curse word, nothing you wouldn't say to your grandma. I would imagine everybody's grandma is the same as my grandma.
I've seen some pretty punk rock grandmas. All right, guys. That has been Button Mash on WCRD. And here's a bit of outro music. Hooray!
Huzzah!
We have music.